Hello there viewers, I'm Pat and I thank you for joining me on this third episode of Forza Versus. Straight away you may be thinking, something isn't right, and you'd be correct in that assumption. I've made a quick stop into Colorado for the Horizon Festival to pick up today's opposing cars, giving me a chance to try them out on a day trip before we take them to a more sterile environment like a circuit. First up we have the Mitsubishi Lancia Evolution X, or 10 if you're not Roman. This modern day vehicle has a door for each of the powered wheels and a piston to match, and despite having evolution in its name, those three numbers haven't changed since the first one. Where it has evolved is both in body and around the parts and the little details that join these parts together. They say that this was the first Evo to be designed as an Evo first and a Lancia second. Originally, Mitsubishi would take their economy small sedan, the Lancia, and then shoehorn the rally-bred all-wheel drive and turbo systems into its body. I have mixed feelings for this latest design, ranging from ooh to ugh. There are a lot of electronic things doing insane amounts of mathematics, all at a blinding pace, but under its skin, it's like the R35 GTR from Nissan. This is meant to help the car ignore the spinning wheels and instead get the nose pointing to where the front wheels are aimed. I'm not entirely sure if it works, to be honest. These interventions make the car feel every gram of its roughly 1.5 tons, rather than a graceful dancer. It takes away from feeling skillful as you manipulate the car towards its limits. But let's change over to a car that was instead made to set new limits, then kick you to the ground and spit at you with indignation for fumbling. This car is the Lancia Delta Intergrale. Like the Mitsubishi, it was let out into the dirt to play as a kid, and while it missed out on the legendary Group B, it did compete in the Group A competition, roughhousing with the Toyota Celica for quite a while until it stopped winning. Against older FR or FF rally machines, the Lancia's all-wheel drive system and solid performance was a dominating force. One of the bigger letdowns for the Lancia has always been its nose-heavy design. Like the Evo, the engine is transversely mounted, that is to say, it goes sideways. So even with brilliant limited slip differentials, you had to be careful not to try late braking with the Lancia, else it would just duck its chin into the ground and suddenly have a taste for whatever's on the side of the road at the time. The Lancia is a striking car, both in design and in its history. With changing regulations and new players pushing it out of the rally game, it lends itself to be something of a what if. What if they evolved its design? What if they did something differently during its career? But that aside, and as a road car, it has acceptable road manners, and I think like many older cars, there's a certain beauty to it which doesn't fade with age. So let's move on to the scoring phase. In testing, I was surprised to find that despite being ranked as a C-Class 396, the Lancia managed a fair 148 around Laguna Seca. The B-Class 476 Evo was hard-pressed for a 150. It seems that in spite of having 95 more horses under its bonnet, the extra 240 kilos of weight in the Evo held it back. I'm going to have to penalise the Evo for this, and for something else that I don't like, the tail lights. After the ugly Evo 8, the better but not great 9, I loved the new face and body of the X, but the arse just makes me think that it's an alpha of some kind, and it feels like a lot of otherwise blank and wasted space. So I'm going to have to give it a 5. I like the numbers on paper, I like its face, but behind its Facebook profile is a story, and one that involves too many couches, black leather couches. While for the Lancia, it has a lot going for it. It doesn't lie on its Facebook, it loves its job, and it works hard. It's a good friend we all like to hang out with, but I do take issue with the bloody tachometer. It turns the right way, clockwise, but it starts at 3 and goes up to 12. That just feels odd to me. With some adjustment, I'm sure the understeer could be tightened up, but the brakes don't seem up to task, thanks to how the engine is placed. The Lancia manages to squeeze a 6 out of 10 because really, if you just keep your foot into it and your eyes up, it's quite nice. So that wraps up another episode, and I again thank you for watching. And remember, enjoy the drift.